Today, we're going to dive into John chapter 19, verses 17 to 42, and together seek to understand the sermon titled, A New Family Relationship.
To really get to the heart of what's happening at the cross, the sermon invites us to see it through a different lens. It's not just about Jesus' suffering, but also about the incredible, soul-crushing pain of his mother, Mary, a pain that was actually foretold decades earlier with these haunting words.
You know, the sermon makes this incredibly powerful point. Even in the middle of his own unimaginable agony, Jesus looks down and sees his mother. And he doesn't just see her, he sees right into her soul, and he recognizes a pain so deep, it was literally like a sword piercing her. The preacher really helps us feel this by comparing Mary's grief to the sorrow of any parent who has lost a child. Think about that. It's a wound that's so profound, no amount of money, no legal settlement, not even time itself can ever really fix it. It's a sorrow you carry for life. And just imagine the sheer length of this horror. For 6 long hours, Mary had to watch her son suffer. And the sermon points out something absolutely crucial. In that moment, only Jesus could truly grasp the depth of her pain. And because he was the only one who understood, he was the only one who could offer the comfort she so desperately needed.
So, understanding Mary's pain really sets the stage for what Jesus says next from the cross. According to today's sermon, these aren't just his last words. They are a powerful command that's about to create an entirely new reality.
Now, at first glance, this seems pretty straightforward, right? Jesus is just making sure his mom will be taken care of. He's entrusting her to his dear friend John and telling John to look after her. An act of love in his final moments.
But was that all it was? Just a practical arrangement?
Well, today's sermon argues with so much conviction that something way more radical is going on here. This is not about logistics. This is a moment that completely redefines what family even means. And here is the absolute core of the message. Jesus is creating a brand new kind of family. A family that isn't defined by bloodlines, but one that's forged in a shared spiritual bond. A deep commitment to doing the will of God. He's literally building a new spiritual household right then and there from the cross. Okay, so what does it actually mean to be a part of this new family? The preacher connects this incredible moment at the cross to one of Jesus' most amazing promises about loss and getting it all back, and then some. Just look at this promise. It's amazing. Jesus says that anything you give up for him, your home, your family, your security, it's not actually lost. In fact, he promises it's going to be restored and multiplied in this life, with eternal life to come. And this just brilliantly shows you how God's economy works. It's not a one-for-one trade. The sermon really zooms in on that specific number, 100-fold return. This shows that God's plan is never about making you lose out. It's always about overwhelming divine abundance.
And you know what? We see this promise come true almost immediately. As the preacher points out, you just have to flip over to the book of Acts, and there it is, this new family, all gathered together. And who's right in the middle of it? Mary, the mother of Jesus, and even his own biological brothers who used to doubt him. Now they're all part of this new, bigger spiritual family of about 120 people.
All of this brings up a much deeper question, right? How do you even get into this new family? Well, the key, according to the sermon, is hidden in a phrase that sounds simple but is packed with meaning, born of a woman.
What the sermon really unpacks for us here is that born of a woman is way more than just a biological fact. It's a spiritual marker. It connects Jesus to this long, long line of children of promise, kids whose births were total miracles, brought about by God when it seemed absolutely impossible.
The preacher uses this amazing illustration from the book of Galatians to explain it. There's this powerful contrast between a child born out of human effort, which represents the old way, the covenant of law, and a child born supernaturally because of God's promise, like Isaac being born to Sarah. That child represents a new covenant of spirit and freedom.
So here's the bottom line. You don't get into God's new family because of who your parents are or because of anything you do. It comes from a spiritual birth, a miraculous intervention that is started and finished by God's promise, just like those impossible births from the Old Testament.
And now we get to the absolute climax of the sermon, where all these ideas, Mary's pain, the new family, the child of promise, they all come together in God's ultimate, world-changing act.
The sermon makes this profound connection. The miracle of being born of a woman through God's promise was like a pattern,
a foreshadowing for the ultimate miracle, being born from the dead through the resurrection. So the preacher looks at this ancient prophecy from the Psalms in this totally radical way. He asks, when is the today that God the Father says this to the Son? And the answer the sermon gives us is just, wow. It's the day of the resurrection. That's God declaring Jesus' new birth, not from a womb, but from a tomb, a birth from death itself. And this just perfectly illustrates the very heart of the Christian faith. The resurrection isn't just bringing someone back to life, it's the ultimate new birth. Jesus is the firstborn from the dead, and through him, we are all invited into this incredible new life, this new family.
And so we come full circle. That deep, sword-like wound of loss that Mary felt, the same wound all of us feel when we lose someone we love, is ultimately answered and healed by this amazing reality, the creation of a new, eternal family that not even death can tear apart.
So this sermon leaves us with this incredible, personal invitation. It asks us to think about our own place, to be born again into God's eternal family, through faith in the one who was born of a woman by promise, and then born from the dead by power.